Let's know what is your experience with hot water heaters and such. Jeff, how's it going?
Good, Jerry. How you, buddy?
Man, I'm pretty good now.
Good.
What think about my t-shirt?
I like it.
That's slick, ain't it?
It's good.
You know Chuck Bonnet.
No.
You don't remember him?
I don't know.
He was a year behind us in high school. Good buddy of mine. He's had a great career in music. Still does music professionally after all these years. So me and the kids drove up to Ohio.
I saw where,
Put on a hell of a show, opened up for Lynch Mob. Great band from the 80s and such, Anyway, had some wild weather around here the last week or so.
Sure have.
Well, last week it was cold and snow covered. I bet a lot of people had issues with pipes and such. I know at my house, I just discovered today, I got all kind of water leaking out from underneath my hot water heater. I'm not sure what happened, but something during the extreme cold has caused something to break. So just got me thinking, you probably know about that kind of thing. I know you're a water pipe man.
Well, I mean, it could be, a number of things. Your hot water heater, your tank and your hot water heater, it could have just rusted through. You may have a hole in there and it's leaking.
Yeah.
May just be time to replace it. You have a boiler drain valve on the bottom, it could have got, I don't know if it's somewhere that you go in and out of a lot. You could have kicked it with your foot or something and maybe cracked it open. Or
I think something just broke in the extreme.
More or less, it's just a tank that's got insulation around it and it's got a shell over it. You got your supply that goes in and your supply that comes out, and that's pretty much it. Of course, you got your heating element in there, of course, but.
Let's take a step back. If I'm a contractor and I'm just running water lines for a house, how do I do that right? What do I need to know to make sure I get the job done right and people get their hot and cold water and everything works right?
Well, like here in the state of Tennessee, we're talking about the snow and stuff. We usually have fairly mild winters, for the most part, and but last year we had a spell there. We got sub-zero temperatures for a few days. This year we had a couple of days. The lows were down, sub-zero, and so state of Tennessee, their codes and stuff in most places try to require you to avoid those. So most of your homes and your businesses, they will not allow any supply lines to be on the outside wall, like coming, running through the walls. Mm-hmm. They want to they try to keep them on interior walls to where they're not exposed to the extreme cold. That being said, there's a lot of times that, your lines may run through your attic or, not through your attic, but like through your ceiling joist or something that the attic is above. Well, attic is not heated space. Mm-hmm. So those temperatures that's outside, they make it inside your attic as well. So you really have to be cautious on that. You want to insulate your pipes really well. Of course, the old school remedy was, when it gets that cold, to leave your water dripping or, running just a little bit. But it makes it hard on your utility companies as well because they have breaks and stuff when temperatures get that low.
Right.
So you try to conserve water as much as possible. So it's really, not if you stop and think everybody in our county had their water running or dripping all night long, 24/7, that adds up to a lot of gallons of water.
I bet most of us did.
Yeah. And so it makes it tough on your utility companies, to keep up with that process, especially if they have a break or their tanks are getting low and they're having trouble infiltrating water out of the rivers or wherever they're getting water from to treat. It's kind of, not really an evil thing, that's what comes to mind, but it's just it's a bad thing, to an extent because just like, my daughter, she lives in Memphis, they had a water boil deal, they had to boil their water for a few days before they could use it because they had so many water line breaks and the water was contaminated. And so, you just really have to, places especially that's not set up, for the cold temperatures, their infrastructure is not designed for it. So.
Right. So as far as running lines in a house and such, is that something like from a code standpoint? Will that vary depending on the part of the country? Like way up north, are they going to have different types of codes because they're going to have a lot more extreme temperatures?
Yeah, and just like your outside stuff, like here our frost line, is I think it's 18 inches, and what that is like over time. They have decided, that when cold weather sets in, your ground will freeze up to 18 inches. Then below that, is good. But when we have those extreme temperatures, our frost line goes deeper in the ground.
Right.
So the deeper your lines are supplying your house, and same way the city, the deeper their lines are, then the more likely they're not going to freeze or have breaks. And up north, I say their frost lines are probably 36 to 48 inches, somewhere in that neighborhood, because it gets cold and stays cold.
Yeah.
But, I would recommend, copper's always been the pipe of choice in your homes for many, many years. But, now we have PEX. PEX is a poly pipe. I like it because it does break, but not very often. Like, your lines can actually freeze, and you don't have to worry about a water break. They will thaw out and the water will continue to run.
Okay.
So that's one thing, I would recommend, looking into is having your plumber or whoever's running your utilities in your home to use PEX pipe, because like I said, they can freeze and then thaw and not affect the structure of the pipe.
Gotcha.
Put it off RVs and stuff like that.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. And they got some flexibility to them, especially like an RV, is that RV twists and turns, going down the road. If you got hard pipe in there, then it's going to eventually break some fittings or break a pipe loose somewhere or another.
Right. Well, all right.
And, if you're doing it yourself, easiest thing to remember, is hot's on the left, cold's on the right, and crap don't run uphill.
That's not exactly the way you said it earlier.
No,
Yeah.
close, yeah.
All right. Well, it was just on my mind. Like I said, went and checked it out today, and so I got problems. And I bet around here, where like you say, we're not quite used to these extreme temperatures, I bet I'm not the only person who has.
And you were talking about your hot water heater. Excuse me. The one thing I'd recommend, if you can afford it, it's about like buying 2 water heaters at once, but I would go with a tankless hot water heater.
I think I'm going that route this time.
It's just a lot more feasible in the long run. You stop and you buy a gas water heater or electric water heater, and the manufacturer will even tell you, they only recommend that water heater for 10 to 12 years. At that point, they want you to replace it before you have issues. So
for what it's worth, I got way less than that out of the one I have now, which I replaced just a few years ago. Like I said, I think the temperatures got me this time around.
Yeah.
But if I had tankless, I wouldn't have that problem, would I?
No.
Right. I think that's the way I'm going to go. So yeah, I agree.
And we have one in our home, first one I've ever had, and so far, that if I ever have to replace it, I'm going back with another tankless.
How do those things work, though? How do they heat water that fast?
Well, the way the element is, as it goes through there, of course, ours is hooked to gas. I think they make just an electric one as well, but I'm not for sure. But ours is gas. Of course, it takes electricity to activate it, so it has to have electrical and it has to have gas as well. But as the water goes through, it heats it up as it goes through, and it's got a temperature gauge. You can regulate that temperature wherever you want it at. Of course, I think they're capped at 110 or something like that. And I went out and cranked, once the plumbers put it in, I turned mine up to 130 degrees, because it just didn't seem quite hot enough. Yeah. But, it doesn't matter how many showers we have going, the washer and dryer can be going. Everyone has hot water. We never run out. And that's, with the hot water heater, tank heater, you've only got X amount of gallons of hot water. And as it comes in, the heating element can't keep up with the requirements, so you end up with a cold shower.
I see. That's the difference. Okay.
Because you're dumping cold water in there, and it takes a time for that hot water heater to heat that water up. And once it gets to a certain temperature, if that hot water heater, if that hot water stays in that tank for just say 24 hours or longer before any water comes out of it, then the top part of that water will cool down.
Mm-hmm.
And so it takes a while for it to regenerate, to get your water back up to temperature.
You sound like you know what you're talking about, Jim.
Well, I mean, it's just over years replacing my own hot water heater and stuff of that nature. I'm no plumber by any means, but it's headaches that we all run into, and luckily, I've been able to change out the stuff like that myself, and not have to involve a plumber or someone to.
I'm gonna make a confession. I'm thinking about just hiring somebody to do mine this time around. I installed my last one myself, the one I have now that's breaking. That's a pain.
It's a chore.
That's a job.
Yeah, and you need a couple of guys there to get it in and get it set up.
Sure enough. Yeah.
It's really tough, especially if you got a 35 to 50 gallon tank. It's
Man,
a lot of
them things. That's some weight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with that. That's why they have people out there that does it.
Well, sure. Yeah.
But
All right.
if you decide to tackle it yourself and need some help, just let me know.
Yeah, I'll holler at you for sure. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Thank you, Jerry.
Y'all check us out at ProfitDig.com. If you found this interesting and useful, we would certainly appreciate a like or a comment. Let us know what is your experience with hot water heaters and such, or if there's anything you want to hear us talk about. We would appreciate it. All right.
Thank you, guys.
See y'all.